This is my attorney in Los Angeles. His name's David Krinsman.
Hey, dude, what's up?
Hey, how are you?
Dude, I have like 10 process servers standing outside of my apartment building saying they're suing me for like intellectual property theft and defamation to God and slander to Jesus. Should I call the cops? Should I call the Hells Angels? What should I do?
Okay, just 1 second.
Can they even sue me for that? Can you be sued for slandering God?
No, God is not a person. If somebody could try to file a lawsuit, he would get tossed out immediately.
Hey, dude, you know what? I'm just fucking with you guys. I'm with Vice Magazine, and they had heard I make crank calls, so we decided to crank you.
See, this is what I have to fucking deal with when I represent James Bond.
Later, dude. I'll call you later. Bye.
So hi James, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You doing good today?
I'm doing well today, man.
So there's been a lot of press about your book over the last few days, and it's about a modern day Messiah who advocates orgies and drugs and lives for a short time in the subways underneath New York City. Do you think people are going to try to kill you or anything like that because of this book?
Are people going to try to kill me? I hope not, man. I don't want to die, you know. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, some people read the book and don't find it offensive at all, and some people read it and say, you know, how long till you leave America? I mean, that's part of the fun of releasing a book, is seeing what happens. See if people read it, see if people care, see how they react. You know, the book wasn't designed to want to make people kill me. I tried to write a valid religious document, you know, write a book about what I really think it might be like if the Messiah came back to earth. You know, people think about the real Christ and about the Bible. And one of the things that's forgotten, which is one of the most important things, is that when Christ was on earth, he was a radical. He wasn't part of acceptable society. He didn't believe in anything that acceptable society held dear. He was a radical preacher with a radical message who was dangerous enough so that he was killed, so that he was strung up on a cross and killed. I think if the Messiah were to arrive or Christ to return, he would be that same type of radical.
You said it's your stab at a religious document. So, you know, what kind of research went into it?
I had a number of consultants on the book. I had an Orthodox rabbi here in New York who was a consultant. I had a Pentecostal preacher, a Catholic priest, a trauma surgeon, a criminal defense attorney, a mental health advocate. I wanted the book to be right. I know how I feel about God and how I feel about faith and how I feel about religion, but I didn't know the mechanics of it. There are very specific theories about Messiah. There are very specific requirements within Judaism to be considered Messiah, and I needed to know all that stuff.
The book is structured just like, you know, the New Testament, Old Testament, when it's told through different books, through different narrators who interact with Ben Zion, who's the Messiah. And some of the books are actually named Ruth or Esther. How much do they have in common with, you know, the original?
Obviously, I looked a lot at the first two books of the Bible. Mm-hmm. I looked at how the stories were told. I looked at weird stuff like numbers. There's a lot of numbers in the Bibles, and they're very specific. I looked at the Gospels of Christ. I love that we don't know the story of Christ from his own perspective. We just know it from people who knew him. And I love that the Gospels of Christ are in and of themselves unreliable. You know, they don't actually match up perfectly. They tell different stories. I just tried to think, what would a contemporary version of this be? So yeah, the book is written entirely from the perspective of the friends, family, and followers of Ben Zion Avraham, also known as the Messiah, also known as the Lord God. Every chapter of the book is written in a radically different voice. The first chapter is a 18-year-old Puerto Rican girl living in a housing project in the Bronx. The second chapter is a 45-year-old foreman at a construction site. The third chapter is a 38-year-old trauma surgeon at a hospital. And it was cool to have to literally reinvent how I wrote with every chapter.
When you were compiling research for the book, do you have any new thoughts about faith?
Oh, I have a profound respect for faith. I mean, if anything, writing the book gave me more respect for religion and made me think about it more. But what the book really is me trying to work out my own feelings about it. You know, I've struggled with the idea of God and religion and faith almost my whole life. And it's something I've written about every time I've written a book. You know, I wrote most of 1 million little pieces is about it. I walk around New York and I see things that are incredibly beautiful every day and incredibly horrific every day. And you think about, well, why are we even here? How does my brain work? Is my brain different from my spirit or my soul? Do I believe? Do I not? What do I believe in? How do I reconcile, you know, living in the 21st century, living in an era of nuclear weapons and genetic engineering, and living in an era where we know, you know, being gay is not a decision somebody makes, but the way someone's born. How do we reconcile these ideas, you know, the physics of Stephen Hawking with, you know, stories of a man with a big white beard who sits on a chair with a bunch of dudes judging everybody. It's really hard for me to reconcile those ideas, but I think it must be a beautiful thing to believe in God without a shred of doubt and to have faith.
Were you brought up with any sort of religion?
I was baptized Catholic and I was confirmed Episcopal, and my parents took us to church every Sunday when I was a kid. I grew up in Cleveland, but I've never been able to really believe in that kind of God. And in a lot of ways, the book is me writing about a God I could believe in. You know, if I were to believe in something, it would be someone like this.
I've had a lot of the same struggles. At the same time, when I find myself in really crappy situations, I might do something that could be called praying. Have you done that anytime recently, or in the last 10 years or anything like that?
Yeah, many times.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever you go through a bad time in your life, you want some reassurance or you want some help. And when your life's completely out of control, you want to try to find some way to control it or find something that can control it. I mean, I don't really talk about this, or I've never really talked about it, but my wife and I had a son who died a couple years ago. You know, I sat in the hospital and I watched him die. And when that was happening, I would get on my knees every day and beg God for help. Literally beg and plead and cry and say, help me. I would say, take me and let my son have a life. I don't need a life. Take my life, give it to him. And while that was happening, I went to churches of different denominations around New York. I went to a mosque, I went to a synagogue, I went to all these places, and everywhere I went, I got down on my knees and I begged for help. I begged for something, for relief, for a sign, for whatever. And I didn't get anything. I didn't feel anything. I don't know if that's because I'm a bad guy in God's eyes. I don't know if that's because there isn't a God. I don't know if I did it the wrong way, or if I needed to do it before that to be able to get the help then. I don't know. I don't have the answers to any of it, but I've, you know, never gotten a sign.
A large part of the book has to do with the world is ending in some way, and whether that means flat out apocalypse and everything blows up, or just a complete change of how humans live. That's what Ben Zion preaches in the book, and that's the word of God through him. Do you think this could be, we could be close to the end? Like this could really be happening right now?
I mean, I think we live in a world where a lot of people have a lot of bombs. They're bombs that take out tens of millions of people at a time. And there's a lot of hatred between all the people who have these weapons. And if you look at the conflicts around the world, most of them are religious conflicts. You know, the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, the United States, and sort of Islam as a global religion is in large part a religious conflict. 9/11 was a strike in the name of religion. And if you look back over the course of history for the last couple thousand years, most of the big wars have been, they've sort of been land grabs done in the name of religion. And unless there's some other system that comes in to replace the ones we have, which I don't see happening, it's just, you know, nothing's going to change. There'll be some sort of major conflict tied into religion that will kill a lot of people.
And let's talk about something else that's a big deal with this book, how you're publishing it. So why don't you tell us exactly what your plans are for releasing this to the world?
I tried to write a radical book that wasn't like anything anybody had done before. And I'm trying to release it in a radical way. And, you know, I've had problems in my career before when I write controversial material. Problems dealing with sort of corporate entities behind it and how they disavow it or step away from it once the controversy reaches a certain point. So I decided I wasn't even going to contemplate doing that. So I thought an art gallery would be a more appropriate place to publish books. I got in touch with 5 of my artist friends, you know, Richard Prince, Ed Ruscha, Terry Richardson, Dan Colin, and Richard Phillips. And I'm collaborating with them on making these illuminated manuscripts, you know, like old medieval Bibles, where they sort of make art that is their reaction to what they've read, and then we publish it as sort of a book with a lot of art in it. And they're going to be beautiful, astounding, one-of-a-kind objects. And I think sort of the future of publishing is that. You know, we're seeing publishing change very radically right now. You know, we have the internet, we have digital devices like the Kindle and the Nook and the iPad. And I don't need a publisher to release my books on those things. So I sort of arrived that I was going to publish these beautiful books and limit the number of them. And then at the same time, you know, let anybody who wants to read the book read it on a digital device. I want to become a writer to break rules and to get in trouble and to do, you know, to do things that pushed boundaries. And I think at some point literature has become this precious thing that doesn't value that anymore, even though most of the historical figures in it only did that. Something's a book, and everything else is irrelevant. You know, what's relevant is when somebody picks up that book and reads it, how it makes them feel, or if it makes them think, or if at the end of it they think it was worth their time. You know, all the other stuff is just bullshit.